In my neck of the woods, winter is still going strong. Instead of waiting for that to pass, let's have a look at another indoor flyer here on this channel, which I know at this point might as well be called the Tiny Whoop Review channel. Anyway, the M80S is a recently released ducted quadcopter from Eachine. The craft is set apart firstly by its bigger scale, including faster motors and bigger battery, secondly by some neat features seldom seen on toy-grade quadcopters. Let's get out of the cold and have a look. Welcome to this review and flight test of the ready-to-fly version of the M80S quadcopter from Eachine. Like with many, if not most Eachine products, the M80S is a blatant rip-off an existing model. In this case, it's the Blade Inductrix FPV Plus released in the fall of last year. Just like the original it's modeled after, the M80S is bigger than your typical brushed Tiny Whoop, adding an extra centimeter or so both to the motor-to-motor distance and the diameter of the four-blade propellers. In fact, in terms of size, it's pretty similar to the recently reviewed brushless Bold Clash B-Whoop B06. The M80S is a brushed quadcopter, albeit a comparatively powerful one. The motors measure 8.5mm in diameter, compared to 6 on most brushed Tiny Whoops, including the original Blade Inductrix. This does mean more power, but you should keep in mind that the M80S also has a lot more weight to lug around. The motors use a plug-in system to connect to the flight controller, which should make them easy to replace. As for the FPV aspect, the M80S is about as standard as they come. You got your wide-angle camera with 600 TV lines or TVL of resolution and a 25mW video transmitter with a dipole antenna, which you should probably readjust to maximize coverage. If you watched my previous video, you know I've been messing around with on-screen display or OSD. Sadly, there is none of that here, meaning you'll get no indication of the quad's battery level, signal strength, etc. in your goggles. Eachine sells the M80S in a number of different configurations. There's the ready-to-fly or RTF version seen here, which includes a transmitter, and 3 bind and fly or BNF versions, which can be bound to either DSM, FlySky or FreeSky compatible hobby-grade transmitters. Sadly, at the time of this review, the RTF version can't be bound to any other transmitters, and it doesn't seem like there are any ongoing efforts to reverse engineer the protocol. The RTF transmitter itself is of the familiar gamepad variety. It won't win any awards for looks or originality, but it's solid and well proportioned. The sticks are long and to me seem to favor pinch over thumb flyers. As a thumb flyer myself, I sometimes lose grip of one of them and struggle to find it again quickly with my goggles on. In case you can't learn to live with them, they are removable and thereby replaceable. On top of the choice between RTF and BNF, you also get to choose how many batteries, 1, 2 or 3, you want to come included with the quadcopter. Note that the batteries have a nominal voltage of 3.8 and not 3.7, which is typical for LiPo cells. I assume these are so-called high-voltage lithium polymer or LIHV batteries, which have been around for a while but more recently started to gain traction. A quick Google search should fill you in on the pros and cons of this technology. Regardless of what bundle you happen to decide on, you'll also get a USB charging cable and an English instruction manual. Unlike most manuals for toy-grade quadcopters, I found this one really well written but sadly lacking information on some key FPV aspects like changing frequency channel and flipping the image, which some early reviewers reporting having to do. Also note that there's no spare propellers included. The Eachine M80S has not 1, not 2, but 3 different flight modes. First, there's angle mode, the quote-unquote normal mode of toy-grade quadcopters. This mode limits maximum pitch and roll and automatically stabilizes the craft when there's no stick input. Then there's altitude mode, which does basically the same thing, but also automatically maintains the craft's altitude when the throttle is centered. Finally, there's acro mode, popular among racing enthusiasts. In this mode you control the velocity of rotation without any angle restrictions or assistive features. Since I'm not a big fan of altitude hold modes and haven't mastered acro flying well enough to feel like I should comment on it, I'll focus on angle mode. In this mode the quadcopter flies great and the transmitter surprisingly allows for pretty good precision. There's only one predefined rate, which is luckily well measured, but this is a matter of preference and it would have been nice with some way of adjusting the flight characteristics. Especially for acro mode, I imagine. Despite the 8520 motors, the quadcopter's power is, while adequate, not extraordinary, probably because of the added weight of that big battery. Speaking of the battery, this tends to slide around a little in the frame, causing its weight to shift around. I found you can easily solve this by applying some tape in order to make it thicker, which is the reason for the scuff marks you may have noticed on the battery earlier. The M80S comes with a novel anti-turtle function, or one key invert as it's called in the instruction manual, which allows you to flip over the quadcopter with the press of a button in case you happen to crash upside down. The same feature was introduced in the beta flight firmware not so long ago. It works well and is pretty convenient, especially when flying with goggles, but note that it won't work and may even damage the motors if the propellers are obstructed by grass or thick carpet. As for the FPV part of the flight experience, I haven't got much to say, positive or negative, about the M80S. This is a recording from a pair of VRD2 Diversity Box goggles of the quadcopter being flown in an office with lots of glass and concrete. There's definitely some interference, but not enough to affect flying, and not noticeably more than other similar solutions I've tested under the same circumstances. Thanks to its higher voltage, higher capacity battery, the M80S is capable of comparatively long flights. I may not get the full 6 minutes promised in Banggood's listing, but well over 5. The state of the battery is signaled very clearly by a bright multicolor LED on the back of the quadcopter. It starts off green, switches to yellow halfway or so into the flight, and then red when it's time to land. It also has colors and patterns to indicate things like loss of contact with the transmitter. In conclusion, a lot of what the Eachine M80S does exceeded my expectations. I've mostly been flying it in angle mode, but my experience is that the quadcopter flies well, great even, and both the transmitter and the flight times are surprisingly good. On the other hand, I can also think of a couple of things it doesn't do. There's no way of adjusting the rates in any of the flight modes, the RTF version has no support for any alternative transmitters, and there's no OSD capability, which isn't unreasonable to expect for around $100. All in all, I'd say the M80S is a perfectly viable option for people, especially intermediates like me curious about acro flying, shopping around for an all-in-one indoor FPV package. But at its current price point, maybe not worth the cost of upgrading to from an existing build or setup. Hey there, thanks for watching. I just thought I'd mention that while editing I did come across a couple of reviews that criticized the quad's acro mode, and which I don't feel I can comment on. So if you're thinking of buying this quadcopter with that specific purpose in mind, do check out some more reviews first. Alright, see you soon in another review. Bye!